من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في قرآنه الكريم وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. My elders, brothers, sisters, and Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we enter into the second part of the topic that I want to cover, which is Wudhu. Last week, during the first session, we discussed on the essence, the spiritual essence of Wudhu. Now I just want somebody to tell me what do you understand by the spiritual essence of Wudhu. Maybe you can answer?
Yes, the root besides the body.
Yes, that's right. It is the ruh that is presenting in front. It is the soul, the nafs that is presenting before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The spiritual essence about Wudhu is that you're cleansing, you're purifying your soul before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it is your soul that is performing the worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah says in the Holy Quran very clearly that He's asking the hearts to worship Him. The heart is referring to the nafs, not the physical organ of the body. So today we understand that now the essence of Wudhu has got a spiritual aspect. We have clearly understand that. But we must also know that not only is it physically, it is not only spiritually important, or the essence is not only spiritual, but also physical. When we cleanse our soul before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we must also make sure that our bodies are also clean before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We must make sure that whatever clothes that we are wearing, however we have been the whole day, we have to ensure that we are clean that day. Now, for instance, if you happen to walk back home from work or school, and suddenly a dog will sniff your pants, what will you do? You will immediately remove those pants. When you go back home, remove your pants, you will change your pants. Why? Because of najasa. So we have to be careful of all these things. Sometimes we should not overlook it. Same thing, some things that you touch, anything. But one of the important things that I want to specifically mention today is especially toward the gents community that we have. Sometimes we overlook, or rather either we have forgotten or we do not know the tariqah of when you perform urination, when you go to the washroom. When you go to the washroom, as per Islam, you're supposed to either sit or squat. You cannot stand. This is something that has troubled also our community. I myself have personally seen our own community members, not necessarily here, but everywhere I've been, and I've also heard that from other people, that some of us actually stand and urinate. Now this is not allowed in Islam. It has got both spiritual aspect and the physical aspect. I don't want to dwell into it right now. Maybe I'll leave that for some other time. But just to make sure that everybody understands that when you urinate by standing, one of the things that you do not do is you do not cleanse yourself properly. I'm referring this to the men. You do not clean yourself properly, and that's the reason why your wudu will not work, your namaz will not work. So I thought let me make this importantly known here, that in case if any one of us is doing that, then inshallah we stop from today onwards and make sure that we perform the correct way of urination. Sallallahu Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Today's topic, I want to move on to discussing the tariqah of doing wudu. What does the Holy Quran say about it, and what does the hadith of our Imam say about it? Now here you will see I have written the first part of the verse of Surah Ma'idah, which is verse number 6, which says Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha kuntum ila salat faghsilu wujuhakum wa aydiyakum ila al-marafiq wamsahu bi ru'usikum wa arjulakum ila al-ka'bayn. Maybe you can read the translation for everybody. What does it say? They owe you.
When you stand up for prayers, I wash your face and
One. That's one.
No time.
One.
Wash your face and hands up to the elbows.
Two.
And wipe a part of your head and your feet up to the ankles.
Thanks. This is the meaning of the verse from the Holy Quran. You will pick it up. You will pick it up and you will go to learn. I'm sure you have English translations at home. You pick it up. This is the meaning of that verse. Now, can you move on to the next slide? In this ayat, Allah has used two imperative words. The first word He used is faghsilu, which means to wash. Faghsilu means to wash. The second word that He has used is wamsahu, which means to wipe. Now we'll go back to the verse and what does it read? On the first part, no, it's okay. From the first part, when He talks about faghsilu, He says wujuhakum. And then He says wa aydiyakum. Two things. Faghsilu wujuhakum, which is your face, and wa aydiyakum, which is your hands. And then He says the second part, wamsahu, which means to wipe. Wamsahu bi ru'usikum, which means a part of your head, wa arjulakum, which means there are two parts here we must know. One is the washing part, one is the wiping part. The washing part is your face and your hands, the wiping part is your head and your feet. Let's move on to the next slide. Now we will ask ourselves, which part of the face are we referring to when we say wujuhakum? Wudhu, which is the plural form of face, which is the front portion of the face. If we look at the ahadith of our imams, they say from the vertical point of view, it is from your hairline up to your bottom of the chin. That is where. Now somebody will ask me, I'm bald. Then, if you're bald, then it is no, it's not from the back. If you're bald, then you have to where it is reasonably the place where the hairline, the first hairline is. That is the point, and until of course to the bottom of the chin. Horizontally, it is the span of your hand from your thumb to your middle finger. From your thumb to your middle finger, that is in fact you see the longest span. That is a span. Now if somebody tells me I've got a short face, I've got a long face, then is it what is the opinion? It's very simple. You follow your palm. If you have a very wide face, you still follow your palm. If you have a narrow face, you still follow your palm. So that is the as far as the face is concerned. We move on to the hands. Yad or ID, which for plural form or hands, it means from the shoulder to the fingertips. We are doing here the linguistic point of view. The word ID, the hands or yad, the hands. It means the total hand, right from the shoulder all the way to your fingertips. It consists of the arm, the forearm, and the palm. This is what the meaning of aydiyakum is. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not just say wa aydiyakum. He qualifies, or rather makes it a specific part. What does He say? Ilal marafiq, which means up to the elbows. Up to the elbows. Now here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that not the whole end, just up to the elbows. He is specifying the part of the arms that is required to perform wuzu. Now this is where the difference between our Ahl Sunnah brothers and of our Shia brothers come in. Because they translate or do the tafsir of this verse saying that what do? They wash from their fingertips all the way to the elbows. Why? Because they say that the tafsir of this verse, which says up to the elbows, which means the way of performing wuzu. But no, that is not what it is. Here Allah is specifying the location, the part of the hands that needs to be done. The tariqah has been explained in the hadith by our imams and of course the Holy Prophet. The Quran verse only tells us which part of the hand is required for wuzu, which means up to the elbows. We learn then from our hadith of imams of whether is it upwards or downwards. So we move on to the next one. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not say وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ رُؤُوسِكُمْ. وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ رُؤُوسِكُمْ would mean wipe your head, the whole of your head. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put that verb there, bi or ba, which means it denotes partiality, only a part of something when you use the word ba. Correct me if my Arabic brothers here. So when he says bi ru'usikum, it means partial of head, part of the head, not the whole head. Okay? Then wamsahu bi ru'usikum, which means only part of the head. Then we move on to the feet. He says وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. Now here he is specifying which part of your feet. Again, when earlier in the verse he says وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ بِرُؤُسِكُمْ وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُسِكُمْ, and wipe a part of your head. It continues to say وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ, which means also a part of your feet. Not the whole of your feet, a part of your feet. Then it says to specify إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. Just the way earlier it says إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ, up to the elbows. Again in the feet, when it comes to the feet, he says إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ, until the ankles. Again here it's specifying the part of the feet that needs to be wiped. So, and hence we conclude that it is the part of the feet. We move on to the next part. Now, we want to know how is it that we perform the wudu. The Quran has told us the guideline of where wudu must be done. What part of the head, what part of the face, what part of the hands, what part of the feet. Now we need to know how is it performed. That one we learn from the Aimai Masumin Salamullahi alayha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Zurara bin Ayyun narrates this from the following hadith, which is from Imam Muhammad Baqir Salamullahi alayha. Where Imam said, should I show you or should I describe to you the wudu of the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? See, the reference is still made to the Holy Prophet, which means the Holy Prophet has shown the tariqah of doing wudu. It's not just the Holy Quran, it's the tariqah from the Holy Prophet, taught by the Prophet. They answered yes. So what did they say? Maybe you can tell me. What's the first one? We said yes. After that?
When the water was washed, the Imam washed his hand and then uncovered his forearms.
Alright, he washed his hands. That is now the first step. You wash your hands first. Right? We'll discuss it which the part which is mustahab in wajib. He washed his hands, then he uncovered his forearms. Okay, go ahead.
He dipped his right hand in the vessel.
He dipped his right in the vessel. Okay, continue.
Then scoop it full with water and pour it on his forehead.
Okay, so here he's talking about scooping the water and pouring on his forehead. Okay, go ahead.
He let the water drop on the end of his beard, and then he passed his hand on his face and forehead.
And forehead once. So here he picked up the water, he poured it on his face, and then he washed it from the top of his head to his beard. He did it once. Okay. We move on. We continue. I'll give it to Mohamed Hussein. Okay. What did he do then?
Then he dipped his left hand in the vessel, filled it up with water, poured it on his right elbow, and then passed his palm on the forearm until the water dripped to the fingertips.
Ahsan. We hear that. What did he do? He filled up the water in his left hand, poured it on his right elbow. Then only he passed his palm until the forearm, until the water dripped to his fingertips. You see the method shown now here of the Holy Prophet? It is from the elbow right down to the fingertips, not the other way around. Okay, you continue. Also, you say, what did you do then?
Then he fully scooped the water with his right hand, poured it on his left elbow, and then passed his palm on the forearm until the water dripped to the finger.
Ahsan. He scooped the water with his right hand, poured it on his elbow, let the water run, and all the way to the fingertips. Same method. First, it's from the elbow to the fingertips, to the palm. Yeah. Okay. Finally.
Then he wiped the front part of his head and the apparent side of his feet by the wetness of his left and right hands.
Ahsan. Then he wiped the front part of his head. Wiped the front part. This is the front part of your head. This is the back part. This is the front part of your head. And the apparent side, the side which is shown, because when you talk about feet, it's the whole feet, including the sole. But what is it? The apparent side, the side that we can normally see. Apparent side of his feet with his wet hands, with the wetness of his left hands and right hands. This is something that we must be very careful about. With the same wetness of the palm, of the water that was in his hands, he did the wasa of his right feet and his left feet. Now this one you can see from the wasa, I quoted from there. This is the hadith of our 6th Imam, our 5th Imam, and also the 6th Imam has happened to have quoted the same thing. After all, it is from their grandfather, Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, one of the most important things that we must do when we read any hadith, when we read, is it must be in connection, or rather similar to what the Holy Quran says. If the Quran rejects what the Hadith says, then we must reject the Hadith. If the Quran accepts what the Hadith says, then we must accept the Hadith. And if the Quran is silent about what the Hadith says, then you have to use your logical opinion. Why? Because if Quran did not mention anything about the Hadith, which means the Holy Quran or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not find any importance to mention about that particular act. So we must understand this. Now, we know that we are in our books, we will find them. We will find this in our books, that any Hadith must be in connection with the Holy Quran. I will just give you the next one, please. This is the tafsir of Al-Kabir of Al-Razi, where he says, the Prophet has said, if a hadith is narrated to you from me, then put it before the book of Allah. If it is according to the book of Allah, then accept it, otherwise reject it. This is from their books. Similar in our books, we find the same thing. But we must understand that it is being there in their books. Which means, if any time we also want to wonder about any hadith, match it. If it matches it, accept it, even if it's from their books. But if it does not match the Holy Quran, then we can reject it based on this hadith. We move on now to Sunni references about wiping off. Because one of these problems that we have, not rather say problem, but more about these differences that we have with our brothers is on how what we do and what they do with regards to the washing and wiping. What do? We know if you open Sahih Bukhari, they wash their feet, right? We have seen that also happening. But then let us see from their own Sunni references what has been said about the correct method of doing wudu. Imam Fakhruddin Al-Razi in his Tafsir Al-Kabir, what does he narrate? He says, Abdullah ibn Abbas, one of the famous companions of the Holy Prophet, he says, Allah has enjoined 2 washings and 2 wipings, 2 faghsilu and 2 wamsahu. In wudu, don't you see that when Allah mentions tayammum, now in the surah that I have mentioned, in the verse that I read earlier, is only the first part of the verse. The second part of the verse talks about how to perform tayammum. And in the tayammum, the way it has been mentioned to perform, we know tayammum is we have to take the dust from the earth. But what is it? The parts of the body where we are supposed to normally wash with water, at the time of tayammum, we wipe it with dust. You've seen that, the face and the hands. We have to wipe it with dust, not wash. The parts that we're supposed to wash with water, during tayammum, we wipe it with hands. So Abdullah ibn Abbas continues to say, don't you see that when Allah mentions the tayammum, He places the 2 wipings in place of the 2 washings. That is the face and the hands. And leaves out the wipings of the head and feet. We don't use the tayammum we don't take the dust, put it on our head and feet. We don't do it. You see, the wiping has been replaced by the washing has been replaced by the wiping. So this one we see that we see that in these references, but the message here is clear that the clear mention that wiping has been used as far as feet is concerned, not washing. We move on to another source. Next, please. Ibad bin Tamim says that I saw the Prophet performing the wuzu and he wiped his feet. This is also one of the scholars reported in their books, and this has been recorded by Tariq al-Bukhari, the Musnad of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, the Sunan of Ibn Abi Shayba, and Mujammal al-Kabir of Tabrani. These are famous scholars from the Sunni world, and they have quoted all this hadith of Imam Ibad bin Tamim. So we understand that we see from these references that even in their books, the word, or rather the method of wiping is very clear. Very clear. Sallallahu Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now to summarize, now we understand what is the way of what the Holy Quran says and what our Imam and the Holy Prophet has mentioned to us on how to perform wuzu. Now we go on down to summarizing of how to perform the wuzu. So first thing is make the intention. Every act that you perform, you must have an intention. And the intention has to be made inside. You don't have to speak it out. And that is why the reason why it's okay to not speak it out is because the intention is of the nafs, not of the tongue. It's of the nafs, not of the jism. Yeah? So that is why intention is number 1, very important. Just the way we do niyat for namaz, we must also do niyat for wudu. The next thing is we must wash our hands first. Why do we need to wash our hands first? Because it is the same hands that we are going to use to take the water and perform all the acts of wudu. So those hands must be clean first, physically. Then we go into gargling 3 times. Mohamed had mentioned last week, mashallah. Gargling 3 times is mustahab, and that's the first thing that you do. Second thing is you rinse your nose 3 times again mustahab, the mustahab act, and then goes to the washing of the face the first time and the second time. You can do it once, you can, and you do it second time. But the third time it becomes haram. The third time you cannot wash your face the third time. It's only the first time or second time. And then you wash your right hand the first time and then the second time. Same thing. Yeah, you wash your thing the way we earlier understood it. It's from your elbows all the way to your fingertips. Same thing. You move on to the right arm. You wash it from the elbow all the way to the fingertips. Then you go on to the wiping part. Now you're done with the washing. You go on to the wiping part. You wipe the head with one finger or three fingers, but it must be the part of the head which must be the front part. And one more thing is that it must not touch the hairline. Okay, I'll explain that in the next slide. The second one is wiping of the right foot with your right hand and the left. Wiping your right foot with your right hand and your left foot with the left hand. So these are the procedures that we need to perform in wudu. And now the difference of why washing and why wiping comes in our next slide, please. Now in the wiping of the head, the first thing that we must do, sometimes either we've forgotten about it or sometimes we get confused of what needs to be done. Because we must know that the water that you use to wash your hands is the same water that you must use to perform the massah. It cannot be mixed with any other water. Now, well, how can you do that? First of all, once you perform your wudu, once you have picked the water, let's say we're using tap now, not like the other days, we open the tap. Once we have finished taking water from the tap, what do you first do? Before pouring the water on your right arm, you use your left, sorry, this is your left arm. Before putting the water on your left arm, you first close the tap. Close the tap, then pour the water on your left arm, wash the thing. Once you've washed your left arm, then you proceed on to doing the massage. You do not wash, then you close the tap, and then you do massage. No. Why? Because the tap has water. Because if you doing wudu, water eventually falls on the tap, so the water cannot mix. This is something that is very important. All of us must understand. So that is the solution of you must close the tap with your left hand, then you do perform the massage. Now, while wiping your head, your hands should not touch the forehead. Why? Because remember when you did earlier, you washed the face, you have the water that is on your face as a result of the wudu earlier. So when you do the massah, this water is different. It's spiritual. Again, we're talking about the spiritual aspect. When you perform the massah, it must not touch your forehead, which means it must be before your hairline. That is one thing that we must perform. And then again, another thing is that the same hand that you perform the massah of the head, continue to perform the massah of the feet. Because the act of wiping must be done with the wetness of the hands only. Okay, move on to the next slide. We discuss about the wiping of the feet. Here, wipe the right hand with wipe the right foot with the right hand and the left foot with the left hand. Now, this is critical, another important rule that we must understand and we must adhere to. The wiping must be in the same position. The wiping of the head and the wiping of the feet must be in the same position. Once you've washed your forearms, your left arm, once you perform the massah, once you do the massah of the head, immediately you must do massah of the feet. You cannot do massah of the head, walk to the place of comfort, remove your socks and then perform the massah of the feet. No, you cannot. Even if you don't have space, sometimes you realize you don't do massah, you realize, oh, there's no space to do. So you come down here and then you perform the massah of the feet. That is not acceptable. The massah must be at the same position. So how do you solve a problem if there are a lot of people there and you don't have space to bow down to perform the massah? What do? When you perform the left arm, you continue stroking it. Okay? The alternative is to continue to stroke the left arm. Once you've done, you continue stroking the left arm, come to a place comfortable, then perform the massah of the head, but go down to perform the massah of the feet. Because there must not be gap between these two wipings. Yeah? So, these are the important rules that we have. There are a lot of rules that you can look up to the Islamic laws, but these are the important rules that...
One of the things which we cover is people directly wash hands also. So we have to be very careful that the water also falls here. Because water goes back also, that is also not
Yes.
One direction.
Yes, exactly. It must be one direction. Like I mentioned, yes, that's right. It must be only one direction. You cannot be going this way back. It must be one direction, from your elbow down to your thumb. Only in the case of the massah of the feet, you can either move from your toes to your ankle or your ankle to your toes. only in the masa of the feet, not otherwise. Not the one with the hand.
Hands also not allowed.
Yeah, only the feet, not the masa of the head, and not the only the masa of the feet. Okay, yes. There, like I was mentioning, there are many of the Islamic laws that we have to that we can look up to. But if there's any questions that anybody has right now, I'll try to answer as much as possible through the Islamic laws. And if I'm not able to answer at this position right now, I'll take it up and inshallah answer in our next session. During the next session, I've got a couple of things to discuss. I thought maybe we'll raise one of the things, the Jabira Wudhu. Jabira Wudhu, the Wudhu on bandage. Yeah, how to perform the Wudhu on bandage. That is one thing that because sometimes we are injured, we need to know. The other thing that I want to talk about is the du'as that we must recite upon when doing the wudu. And why is it that we must start from the face and then move on to the arms, the head, the feet? Why is it that? The answer is in the dua. So I would like to discuss a bit elaborate on the dua, and of course make references to Imam Kumail and Imam Ali alayhi salam. Okay, I need the crowd to any questions if you have any, please. Yes, Ali.
When I was being taught about the wudu, they taught me that when you're doing when you do the washing of the left hand,
right.
If your water on your left hand is more than the water on the tap, you can close the tap with the left hand.
If the water
on your hand is more than the water on the tap, like the
yes,
you can close the
that one also applies when you're performing the masa. You know, sometimes we wash our legs. Sometimes we wash our legs before performing the wudu. Sometimes we have, if you go to certain mosque, you step into a pond or a pool of water before you enter. Now, when you perform the masa, like I said, the water should not be mixed. But then there is a law which says that sometimes we just wipe like that. We don't exactly wipe, make sure it's completely dry. So the water that you put on your arm, or rather the water on your arm which is used for doing the masa, is overwhelmingly more than the amount of water left on your masa on the feet, then it is permissible. The same law applies. Yes.
The rule of forehead hairline is not about the hairline, it's about the wetness on the head. Let's say if you were doing washing of the face, and while washing the face, a small amount of water enters, goes to the head, then the water of masa should not even touch that water, not only the hairline is focused.
Yeah, that's right. The guideline is actually the hairline. Yeah, the hairline is the guideline. But of course, we must make sure that when the water must not mix. So if you realize that when you're performing the act of washing the face and you realize that water has moved further up, then make sure that the two don't mix. But the guideline for washing the face is the hairline. That's why the reference is made the same. But again, always make sure that the masa of the head, the water should not mix with the water of the face.
And jurisprudentially, the washing of the two hands is not obligatory. First washing of the two hands.
First is obligatory.
The top to the ankles, no obligatory.
You mean to the...
No, it's not obligatory.
No,
Just told that it's good to have. The first two hands of washing before you start the washing.
That's
It's
right.
not
Because, and all acts which are wajib have got a spiritual effect directly.
I heard somewhere that the foot's got to be stationary when you do the masa. It's not like the foot's doing the masa on the hand's got to do the masa.
Correct, that's right. That's one point very clear as well. That when you're performing the masa, it is your hands which is stroking the feet. You cannot be just let the one you do in football. Using your legs in football, not in
It should be standstill. Your legs should be standstill.
your legs must be stationary. You cannot be walking and then also doing it. You must be stationary. That's why the importance of having to perform the masa at the same position that you perform the head of the masa of the head and the feet.
But it's allowed to lift up the leg to do that masa.
Yes. Sometimes people lift up because of either elderly or they're having an injury or something, so they put it on something. And then.
Well, you clearly mentioned that our Sunni brothers also have books that say that it's two washing and two wiping. Well, what's the reason why they still don't follow that way? Is there any specific reason why they don't do it the way we do it?
I'll have to give you my personal opinion, not necessarily what I have read in the books, but then again, it's how they have been taught at their school. Sometimes people don't necessarily open their books.
They don't know.
Must be some reasons in the book saying washing also, right?
You see, the traditions that exactly, yeah, like Sahih Bukhari. Sahih Bukhari is the book that they use the most.
Yeah, the most.
Now in Sahih Bukhari, it is clear, they mention that it must be, the legs must be washed, the arms must be washed from the front all the way to the elbows. The reason why the reason why they say that is because of the tafsir they make of the Surah Ma'idah.
So their books it's contradict each other, because the first book says that it's two washing and two wiping.
Yes.
And the other book says
yes. There are many. There are not only this riwayat, but there's so many of the riwayats have been contradicting each other from different books. Sometimes we even see in the same book two different contradictions. The same book. We had heard that from the Madis of Sayyid Mohamed Rizvi when he discussed about the narration of Abdullah ibn Abbas regarding the Prophet. You know, the same narrator, the same time, but they had six different versions. Sorry, two different versions in 6 different narrations. 2 different versions. It changes. Imagine the same narrator. How can that be possible? So we have seen a lot of contradiction in their books, and I hope with this thing they can be guided. I mean, we're not here now to put them down or anything, but we are here to bring them on the path that is correct. Again, it all falls back to the hadith that you follow. If it's in contradiction, because their book says, our book says, if it's in contradiction with the Holy Quran, we have to reject it. Yes.
Why they have to wash our face?
Okay, the reason why, like I told you, why the hands, why the face, and all that, I will discuss when we discuss on the du'as that we perform. Yeah, why do we start with the face? Why do we move on to the hands, then your head, then your feet? Yeah. The answer is in the dua that Imam Ali alayhi salam has taught all of us on the dua that we must perform when we perform the wuzu. And I'll try, inshallah, with that effect from next week, I'll try to put up the verses, or rather statements, the duas rather, that we must perform during the wuzu. So I'll put it up there, so when we perform the wuzu, it's right in front of our eyes. We can directly read it, and inshallah, because when they're very short, we can inshallah have it memorized. And please do not talk that. When we understand the meaning of the duas that Imam Ali Islam has taught us, then we realize that at the point of wuzu, we cannot say, oh, so how was your day at school? It was good? We cannot do that. Yes, sorry.
Another common practice is this: while washing the right hand, we take the water in the right palm, transfer it to the left palm, then we wash the hand. It is allowed, or is it obligatory also?
No, the conditions, the main things that are mentioned is that.
Because
anything else?
If you are taking the water in the left hand and the tap is open, the water is spill out. You won't be getting as much water which is needed to wash the right hand.
Yeah.
So what I do, what my common practice is, I take the water in my right hand, transfer it in my left palm, and then I wash my right hand.
Yeah. But so that also happens when somebody who is not a righty or lefty. I mean, somebody who is allowed. Yeah. Yeah. So that also, yes, exactly. So that also happens when somebody is a very righty person and cannot be able to carry. So sometimes that also happens.
No, you go ahead. Okay, you want to start your wudu first, and then you have to wash your face first. You are worried about the dryness of your hand and anything. Before you want to start the wudu, you no need to make it dry again. You just start straight away. Is it okay?
It depends mostly on the water you are taking should overrun your water which is currently there on your face.
For hand is okay, for massage it should be dry.
No, okay, I will have to
search. I think so.
I will not mention
like.
I saw so many people after the
वज़ू में क्या होता है? होते हैं तो हम लोग ज़्यादा पानी देते हैं, it's okay.
Okay, it is not recommended to dry yourself after wudu.
It is not.
This is one problem that we have. Just like when we wash our hands before eating, we're not supposed to dry our hands. So likewise, when we perform wudu, do not dry your hands.
And after wudu also we should not dry the wudu. We should start the namaz with the same.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the wudu, when if you understand the spiritual essence of wudu, and if you see that how this wudu is so, inshallah in my next lecture I've prepared something about wudu, of the essence of the water of wudu. You know, the water itself, not just the wudu, but the water itself that you want to use before you use it for wudu. Because the water, when you open the tap, you can use it to wash your hands, you can use it to wash your dishes, you can use it to do anything that water requires. But when the water, that particular water is used for wudu, it has got its own essence, which inshallah I'll discuss in our next lecture. But coming back to this fact that he raised about wiping, is not recommended. I have heard this is if I'm not mistaken, this from time of the Holy Prophet, where somebody after performing wuzu, when you know out of a joke, sprinkle on his wife or any friend. It is okay. In fact, if in the case of a wife, that is showing your love, and it is so much also accepted and appreciated that because that is a blessed water. Once you perform the wuzu, it's blessed water. So it's not like, oh, you cannot be throwing. No. In fact, it's like a blessing. So this is the spiritual essence of wuzu that we must be very. That's why it is recommended before going to bed you perform wuzu. Before going, even leaving the house you perform wuzu. Before doing anything is highly recommended before.
Jurisprudentially, it's okay to try
No, it is okay. It is just not recommended. Yeah, it is not recommended because of its spiritual essence. So one question which somebody may ask is that I have a lot of beard, so how do I get the water to touch my skin? You don't have to. You don't have to. It is sufficient that you wipe your head. Unless if your head is light and your skin is visible, then you must make sure that the water touches your skin.
The same thing for the masa also.
Same thing for the masa as well. If you have very thick hair, then it is suffice that you put it on your hair. But if you're able to reach your skin, then you must reach your skin. Anything from the boys? Okay, I hope we have learned quite essentially the tariqah of doing wuzu. If at all we have realized in ourselves, in our lives, that we have not been performing correctly, then let us try to learn from this today and perform it correctly. Please do not feel shy that if in the event somebody were to correct you, two ways. Either you don't feel shy of somebody correcting you, secondly, you don't feel shy telling somebody that this is not the correct way. So it is helpful for us. We have seen how our second imam and third imam, when they used to go to the mosque and they see somebody not performing wuzu, how would they do it? They were young kids. They would not go and say, "Uncle, you're doing it wrongly." They would ask the uncle, "Can you please check whether I'm doing the wuzu correctly?" You see, the tariqah different. Our imam have taught us so much. So same way, let us learn from this what our imam have mentioned, and inshallah benefit our community at large. Any other questions? Osija, you have one question? No? Okay. Yes, final one.
One more thing I wanted to add. When you're going to wipe with a towel, after you've done wuzu, I've heard it's recommended to go down rather than this with a towel. I mean, if you're going to wipe your arms with a towel or something, paper towel.
If something that is not recommended, then I think anything about it will be not recommended either way. So
okay.
Anything.
I just wanted to ask you if that's something that's.
No, I don't think anything beyond. Once you say it's not recommended, anything beyond that is then however you do it.
No,
it doesn't
I'm saying
matter.
like sometimes you come out of the bathroom, you've got your towel, and if you're going to wipe your face off and your arms, and I want to verify this with you. I heard that the best way to do it is to do the same way rather than going this way with a towel. Go this way with the face, go down rather than doing this.
I really haven't come across that.
Okay.
Maybe I can look it up and
Alright.
share that. Yeah. Interesting. I never go to the fact of actually wiping so. Another point. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cold. Yeah, it's right.
Yeah.
This is one of the issues also that if it's cold environment, how do you do? In very extreme circumstances, even you can do on socks or a shoe. Very extreme circumstances. Please take some time, open the Islamic laws. Some of you read the Taqreed of Imam Khamenei, some of you read the Taqreed of Imam Ayatollah Sistani. So please do look it up in the Islamic laws of the person of the Mujahid Taqreed that you're using. Yes, anything?
Why we have to rinse our knees?
Yeah, inshallah, I'll reply that when we go to the next. Yeah. Well, right from the face, from the gargling, right to the feet. Okay, have we done that? Okay, sallallahu alaihi Muhammad wa alihi. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ilahi